All right. Hey, everyone. Welcome back to the channel. Thanks for tuning in. AV Rides here with the lovely stealthed out Honda Rebel 500. But today's video, we're going to be covering something a bit more bleak, but something I think is important. And that is just how dangerous it is to ride one of these machines and why they should be respected. I want to break down the numbers on this. I did a ton of data compiling from a number of different sources. We're going to go for a ride and talk about all these numbers. And the reason why I'm doing this, it's a common experience for new riders, right? You're excited to get into the hobby. Maybe you bought a bike. You want to start telling your friends and family. The reactions you get don't quite add up to what you may have expected, right? These people, while they're annoying and while the responses are a buzzkill, it's a good thing to have people in your life that, do wish you well and do care about you and don't want to lose you. So just keep that perspective in mind, right? Try to stay positive there. But we're going to hop on the bike. We're going to talk about this data that I've compiled and just how dangerous it is, but the different factors you can take to swing the odds in your favor. And again, I'm going to be as objective as possible with this video. And I think the findings, might surprise you. While it is a dangerous hobby, if you take the necessary precautions and you practice proper safety, you can really swing the odds in your favor in a very favorable way, according to the data. So, needless to say, we'll go ahead and hop on the bike, and I'll see you out on the road in 3, 2, 1. All right, y'all. Got some rain rolling in. Had to wake up early to get this footage in. And I don't wake up early for anybody, so you all should feel special. But let's go ahead and let's break down the numbers, all right? This isn't meant to scare anybody, this video. This is meant to give the data you need to make an educated decision, all right? You should know off the bat that riding a motorcycle, no matter how you slice and dice the data, no matter how you tell the story with the data, riding a motorcycle is a dangerous activity, right? Someone lost their crock. So let's start with the ugly first here. So drivers are about, I believe it was 27 times more likely to die on the road than our car driving counterparts, okay? 27 times, that is a 2,700% increase in risk when compared to driving a car. It's inherently a dangerous activity. When motorcyclists crash, typically we're leaving with an injury at the very least, right? But we're dying at a much higher rate, okay, than that of cars. For example, motorcyclists, we make up 16% of all road fatalities annually. And you may think about that number and say, that's really not that bad, 16%. I can roll the dice on that. But we only make up less than 0.5%, I believe, of all riders on the road, or a fraction of a single percent, right? So less than 1% of all riders on the road. So despite being such a small part of the sample size, we are a significant part of the fatality data, okay? All right, and then the trends. The trends are getting worse, unfortunately. So in the year 2023, and I know that's 3 years ago, I'm pulling this data for a specific reason here. In the year 2023, just over 6,300 motorcyclists died on the road. And that number is significant because that's the highest ever annual death rate or death number ever recorded since the US started collecting that data in 1975. All right. So again, not good, trending in the wrong direction. 2024's numbers were the most recent I could find, and they're slightly better, but very slightly. I believe the number was 6,200 something. And there's a lot you could infer from that data, right? You could say, we've gotten better at tracking those metrics, right? So the numbers are going to be higher, which is most likely true. You could also infer that drivers are driving more distracted than ever, right? That includes cyclists as well. You know, cell phone mounts, cars looking at their cell phones. I mean, I see it all the time in my videos, folks looking down at their device while they're driving, not paying attention. It's hard enough to see us anyway. So if you're throwing in the factor of someone looking at their phone, you know, it's even worse. That is the bleak data though, right? Let's start getting into some positives. I promise you this whole video is not going to be negative. So let's start talking about some of the things that are positive in this. Okay. Folks, I want to take a quick pause to remind you to like and subscribe if you're enjoying the content. Hope you're having a good time riding out there or getting ready to ride. Yeah, I appreciate the support. See y'all out there. Enjoy the rest of the video. All right. One of the positive trends in the data, so when we look at the raw data of numbered registered motorcycles versus fatalities that occur, okay? So even with that high number of fatalities, that 6,300-ish number we spoke about, when you compare it to the total rate of ownership, all right, there are about just over 9 million, I think it was 9.5 million actually, registered motorcycles in the United States. All right, and sorry for my international folks that are watching. This is going to be very U.S. centric. That's the data I pulled. As you all probably know already, I live in the U.S. But definitely drop a comment down below and let me know, how your stats match up against the U.S. Anyway, yeah. So about 6,300-ish folks died in 2023. There's about 9.5 million motorcycles registered in America. Okay, so 6,300 is not an insignificant number. That is a lot of people, and if you are one of those people impacted by those deaths, my apologies to you. I hate that for you. The number's small relative to total ownership, okay? And I want to clarify something here that a lot of people that go through these stats on YouTube don't often talk about. And that's the fact that, probably on a cell phone here. Speaking of distracted driving. All right, that's the fact that 9.5 million motorcycles aren't going to be on the road at a given time. People own multiple motorcycles, okay? So it's not always going to be as clear and concise as 9.5. What's the percentage of 6,300 out of, 9.5 million, right? So I actually looked this data up, and ownership rates in America are about 1.3 motorcycles per household or per owner. So when we do the math there, what we find is about a 0.08% risk every time you hop on the motorcycle. A 0.08% risk of dying. So that's a fraction of a percentage, all right? So you can never predict what's going to happen. To end up as a fraction of a percent, yes, you are extremely unlucky. In some cases, you're doing everything right, like I said before, and someone just hits you because they're not paying attention, and there's no way to avoid it, and that causes you significant injury, right? Or, worst case scenario, death. That's just going to be the name of the game. There's no way around it on a motorcycle. Okay. But the odds are heavily in your favor, all right? And speaking of making the right choices, let's now talk about how we can take that 0.08% number and reduce it even further by making some decisions. So let's start with the most obvious one, I'd say, and that's going to be wearing a helmet. All right, I can't believe I have to even mention this to folks, but for the love of God, wear a helmet, folks. I mean, I know some states, our brothering state, South Carolina here, doesn't require helmets, and I know you look cool with your backward snapback on. I get it. I'm a hat guy myself, but dudes, wear a helmet, man. I've seen so many videos online of folks going like 20 miles an hour, falling over to the side, smacking their head in the pavement and dying. It doesn't take much when you're not wearing a helmet. Wear a helmet, and the numbers support it as well. You are a third less likely to be in a fatal motorcycle accident when you are wearing a helmet. Okay? So wear a helmet, preferably a full-face helmet, right? I know the skull cap half helmets look nice, and you look like a badass, and you do, rightfully so. I'm a full-face helmet guy myself. I like the look of them as well as the extra safety. But you do look cool in the half helmet, but none of those are even DOT certified for the most part, you know, with a few exceptions. And then the stats supported as well. You are 25, I think it was 25% more likely to suffer head trauma or more significant injury wearing a half helmet as opposed to a full helmet. All right. So wear those full helmets, folks. There's some cool ones out there with some cool designs. Yeah, and make sure that the helmet, you know, if you can, make sure it's ECE certified, which is the European model of safety. But you know, at bare minimum, make sure it's DOT certified. ECE just has some more significant requirements that companies have to meet. You know, America, man, we're all about making money. So, you know, any way we can ease regulations and restrictions, oftentimes we're going to do that. All right. So that's the helmet conversation. The next conversation is gear, okay? And I might be a bit of a hypocrite for this one because you've seen my videos where I wear a t-shirt. Today I am wearing the safety jacket here by Revit. All right. But wear gear, folks. And here are the numbers with gear. So wearing a jacket reduces your chance of going to the hospital after a crash by about 25%. Wearing pants reduces the chances of going to the hospital. And by pants, I'm saying motorcycle riding pants, not Levi jeans, right? Padded motorcycle riding pants with abrasion resistance ratings. So that reduces your chance of going to the hospital by about 40%. That's pretty significant there. And then the gloves and boots, this one reduces the chance of being hospitalized for a hand or foot injury by 40%. Okay, so still significant. But originally I rode with these Alpine Star gloves that I heard are good, but they kind of feel like batting gloves, like they didn't have a lot of protection. I switched to these Revit gloves that have kind of that palm pad built in, right? So, you know, just look for your AA, AAA ratings on the equipment. But yeah, making the choice to wear gear is going to significantly save your skin, no pun intended. Is that even a pun? I don't know. So yeah, that's another way to kind of reduce the casualty or fatality rate there. All right. Wear that gear, folks. And I'm not an all the gear all the time guy. Like I said, you've seen me in videos where I'm wearing t-shirts, right? And that's a good kind of segue into this concept of a decision, right? We make decisions every time we get on the motorcycle. Making a decision to even put your leg over the bike is one that the risk begins at that point, okay? And then these other decisions we make in tandem with that initial decision of riding the motorcycle are decisions that have factors that can reduce or increase the risk, right? It goes both ways, all right? So that brings me to the next part of the things we can control, and that is speeding. Dun, dun, dun. So about 40% of all fatalities on a motorcycle involve excessive speeding, all right? Now, you're seeing the speed limit sign coming up. It says 45. I'm doing 52, okay? Is that excessive? No. Is it speeding? Yes. If I died right now, would that probably end up in the speeding statistic? Probably, okay? So speeding is one of those decisions where I'm gonna say, you know, be smart about the speed you drive, okay? Don't drive outside of your ability, all right? And you're gonna speed on a motorcycle, man. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not gonna sit here and lie to you and tell you, oh, never speed, you'll be okay. Like, you're gonna speed on the motorcycle. You're gonna get more comfortable riding the bike. It's fun to speed. I totally understand it. You just have to be smart and intelligent about these decisions that you make. Maybe going, 55 and a 45 on an open road is okay, and you feel safe doing that. Pushing it up to 70 on a 45, pushing it up to 80 on a 45, going 120 on the interstate, you're putting yourself at a significant risk there. So there's levels to the speeding conversation. I would say just be smart about it. I don't expect you to never speed. And hey, if you're a laid back guy, you just want to cruise around and you're fun, then even better for you, right? The less you speed, the more safer you're going to be, the less significant the impact of a crash is going to be for you, and the more likely you are to walk away okay. All right, so there you go. Reduce your speed there. The last metric in this category crushes me, man, because I love it. Riding at night. It's about 30 to 40% of motorcycle fatalities occur at night in the hours between 9 and I believe it was 2 a.m. A third of all riders that crash and die at night, alcohol was involved in some way, shape, or form. Either they were hit by another car or motorcyclist driving while intoxicated, or they were intoxicated themselves. All right. So night, nothing good happens after 12 o'clock, they say. In the case of a motorcycle, nothing good happens after 9 p.m. At night, that's when all the critters come out as well. All right, so if you're in an area like this, you see it's heavily wooded here in North Carolina where I live. You're going to run into things like possums. You're going to run into things like deer. Those folks like to hang out at night. They will pop out, run at the bike as they do with cars, and with the car you could just roll on over a possum. I don't want you to do that. Possums are awesome, but you could roll on over a possum and be fine. On a motorcycle, a possum could ruin your day, potentially your life, right? A deer especially so. So yeah, at night, be mindful of this stuff. Lower visibility as well. It's more difficult riding at night overall. But if you want to decrease your odds of ever crashing and ending up in a fatality on a motorcycle, don't drive at night. You have a significant reduction there, right? About 30 to 40%. Oh, I got to mention this one before we move on there. Drinking alcohol. Alcohol-related motorcycle deaths, about 40, I believe it was 40% or 30% of all motorcycle-related fatalities. Oh, look at that. Speaking of wildlife, oh, dude, you can't script this stuff. Yeah, so alcohol-related deaths. About 40% of all fatalities, I believe, in the DMV permit test here. This is the stat you need to know. 40% of all motorcycle fatalities, what is that? Someone's jacket? Involve alcohol of some sort. And we're talking like you drinking one beer, right? Not like driving where you need to have that 0.08 BAC in North Carolina. You drinking one beer and getting on the motorcycle is enough to disrupt your equilibrium to significantly increase your odds of crashing. Obviously, the more you drink, the harder it's going to be for you to ride the bike. There's just too much going on, man. This is a much more difficult vehicle to ride than an automatic car. You have to lean a lot. You have to pay closer attention to the road. There's a lot of controls going on with the foot, hands, a lot of synchronization occurring on the vehicle that's not taking place in a car. Yeah, alcohol, it just doesn't mix, unfortunately, man. I know a lot of riders, they do a lot of group rides and stuff to cigar lounges and whiskey lounges and things of that nature and want to have one or two. I'm not going to judge you. Do whatever you want. I'm just saying, if you want to decrease your odds there, don't have any alcohol while you're riding a motorcycle. That's your safest bet there. It can significantly reduce your chance of crashing and or dying. All right, now let's get to the more bad news. And I wish I got that a second earlier because we were at an intersection, and that's the first piece I want to cover here. So the things that you can't control, but you should be mindful of. A vast majority, about half, all right, 50, no, that's not really a vast majority, but a good chunk of motorcycle accidents occur with a car turning left in front of a motorcycle. Yeah, this one sucks, man. I've seen so much footage on this. You know, you're harder to see on a motorcycle. You're harder to see on a motorcycle. It is what it is. There are things you can do to make yourself be easier to be seen. You know, wear reflective gear, wear lighter colors, drive a bright colored bike. Wearing a white helmet actually increases your chances of being seen up to 25% when compared to a black helmet, which is actually why I wear a white helmet. So wear a white helmet if you can, right? But there's different precautions you can take to make yourself more visible, again, to increase those odds and put them further in your favor, right? All right, so intersections, yeah, that's a tough one. Can't really get around that one, right? Just be really, really careful when approaching intersections. Never be too comfortable, or try your best to not be too comfortable with intersections, okay? Especially when you have cars lined up to turn left as you're driving through. The other stat here, and this one I found surprising. So 8 out of 10 crashes that occur, the motorcyclist is hit from the front. That lines up with these statistics around the intersections, because that would someone turning left in front of you would be in front of you, and that happens half the time. So, but 8 out of 10, that was surprising. I've seen a lot of videos online of people getting rear-ended and getting in a crash, and that's not to say you shouldn't look at your mirrors, you know, while you're driving, or especially while you're at a red light, just to make sure no one's, you know, flying up behind you and gonna take you out. But yeah, eyes ahead at all times, right? The danger is in front of you, okay? All right, so let's tie this all up in a pretty little bow before we close out here, so I can get home before this rain dumps on me here. So, you know, when riding a motorcycle, it's inherently dangerous, okay? No way around it. It just is what it is. You are, again, I'll say it again, sorry if the term makes you uncomfortable, you're a blood balloon, right, on a motorized bike going very, very fast, okay? And bad things are going to happen to you when you crash the bike, you know, at any decent speed, okay, or hit something at any decent speed. So let's get that out of the way now. That is a fact on a motorcycle, right? But the numbers tell a story that show that the odds are most certainly in your favor, okay? At the end of the day, the raw data suggests about a 0.08% chance of you dying every single time you step on a motorcycle within the United States. That's a pretty low risk, right? And then if you start compounding variables that go against that risk, right? You're wearing full gear, you're driving smart, you're driving sober, you're not excessively speeding, right? You have proper training. One of the things I didn't mention is about a third of all fatalities occur to folks that don't have their license, which you could infer means they don't have proper training to ride a motorcycle, right? You have the proper training. You practice slow speed maneuvers, you're comfortable on the bike, right? All these different things can further reduce the odds of you ending up a statistic, all right? So this sport does not have to be a death sentence, and for the majority of folks, as the numbers suggest, it's not a death sentence. You know, ride smart, make good choices, and most likely you'll be okay out there, right? No guarantees with this sport. Anything can happen to anybody. But the odds are that you will be okay. And yeah, you know, this is a sport or a hobby that you have to treat with respect, right? It's like shooting a gun. You know, it's like if you ever rock climbed before, it's like rock climbing, right? It's a dangerous activity. And you need to treat it with respect, and you need to be honest and humble with yourself on your skill level, and don't push yourself out of your comfort zone, right? And just be smart about what you're doing. That's really all there is to it, folks. And I'll tell you from experience, it is way more fun than it is dangerous, in my opinion. So I'll leave you with that. Go ahead and drop some comments below. Let me know what you think of the content. Let me know what your stories are and your experiences are riding a motorcycle. Let me know what crazy stuff people have told you when you told them you were going to start riding. And as always, like and subscribe if you enjoy the content. And stay safe out there, folks. I really appreciate y'all watching, and I want this. I want you all to have fun out on the road, and I don't want you stressing too much about, you know, something bad happening to you. So I hope this video helps kind of rationalize some of this stuff in your head as it did for me when I first looked up these numbers. So with that said, I'll see you all in the next one. Peace out.